So the only time that I saw Jeff outside of class was when I saw him eating with a new girl who just arrived with the new arrivals from boot camp. I remember this young lady, she was very good looking. She looked like a mix of Mila Kunis and Uma Thurman on the cover of Pulp Fiction. So the next day in class, the first thing I asked Jeff is, yo man, who was that chick you were hanging out with last night? Her name is Natalie and she's 19 years old. The number one thing I remembered about that conversation was that Natalie joined the military so she could get away from her 30-year-old ex-husband. And to myself, as a 19-year-old kid, I started thinking, why would a 30-year-old man divorce this beautiful 19-year-old young lady? She's either crazy or he was abusive or cheating or beating her up or something. So Peggy, Jeff, and I sat in one table with Jeff in the middle, and Helga sat right behind Peggy at the table behind us. So our first day of class ended, and Helga invited all three of us to hang out in a room later that night. She said she had beer. So as I walk into the room, I noticed that the girls were a little drunk. As Helga comes up after leaving the beer right next to her bed, she grabs Peggy and she leans in and starts making out with her. Me as a 19-year-old kid, I'm like, okay, go ahead girls. So as they're kissing, they start taking off their shirts. So as their shirts come off, all of a sudden they start taking off their bras. And I'm over here just watching and sipping my Corona. And yes guys, this is Peggy and Helga. We all know these girls aren't good looking. So as Helga's flapjacks and Peggy's watermelons are flopping everywhere, I turn to Jeff, who I completely forgot was in the room, and so I turned to Jeff, who I completely forgot was in the room, and his face was bright red. Then, as soon as I noticed his enraged face, oh man, he yelled, "Stop!" Then the girl stopped in shock that Jeff had that reaction. So Jeff separated them, then he grabbed Peggy's shirt and threw it in her face. As Jeff did that, Helga grabbed her stuff and she just ran to the bathroom. So as soon as Peggy put on her shirt, Jeff grabbed Peggy by the arm and he said, all of us have to leave. I was in shock about what just happened, but I was just laughing as Jeff just dragged Peggy out the room. So there I was, alone in the room. Jeff dragged Peggy out and Helga was scared in her bathroom. So I just chugged the rest of my Corona and I set it on the counter, grabbed my coat, and as I was walking out, I knocked on the bathroom and said, "Good night, Helga," and I left the room. As soon as I got in the hallway, I heard Jeff and Peggy arguing in the stairway. So I just took my time walking down the stairs so Jeff could take Peggy into his room and I wouldn't be mixed up in that awkward argument. So as soon as I heard his door slam, I just made my way down the mile-long hallway into my icy fortress. I laughed the whole way and I just went to bed. So the next few days we went to school and everything was normal. None of us really talked about what happened that night. I guess we kind of forgot about it and just ignored it. But during school, I started noticing whenever Peggy went on a break or when Peggy went to the bathroom, Jeff started flirting with Helga. I personally didn't care. I mean, why would I hate on my homie just doing his thing? So Thursday came and Peggy and Jeff were gonna go together to Peggy's tattoo appointment. I didn't want to go because I just wasn't in the mood to walk all those miles to the front gate just to watch Peggy get a tattoo. My plans were just to hang out in my icebox and just listen to Tupac all night. So I'm in my icy fortress with my headphones on, listening to the Me Against the World album. Then all of a sudden I hear someone pounding in my door. And you know this person was pounding real hard since obviously it was so loud I could hear it with my headphones on. So I open the door and it's Peggy. She lets herself in and she's like, "Oh my God, JD, it's so cold in here." I'm like, I know. So she asked, "You didn't hear me knocking?" I'm like, "My bad, I had my headphones on, what's up?" She goes, "Well, I can't find Jeff and we're supposed to go to the tattoo shop together." And I was like, "Well, he's not here." I asked, "Have you checked his room?" She said she already checked and she was also pounding on his door like crazy. Since no one answered, she figured that he'll be at the chow hall, but she didn't find him there either. So I asked, "Have you checked Helga's room?" She's like, "No, but can you go with me?" I forgot what room it was. Annoyed, I was like, okay. Plus, I had all my clothes on, ready to go outside, since I can't take the layers off in my icy room. So we walk down the mile-long hallway, and we go upstairs to Helga's room. So we get to Helga's door, and I look at Peggy, and I'm like, "Well, aren't you gonna knock?" Hesitant, she goes, "Okay." So she gives the door a little love tap. All of a sudden, through the door, you could hear a little shuffling in the room. I look at Peggy, and I'm assuming she also heard the loud shuffling. We wait a little bit, and no one answers the door. So then, as we're looking at the door waiting for someone to answer, I see the light from the peephole all of a sudden go dark. And then all of a sudden the light reappears in the peephole. So I'm thinking, bruh, someone's in there. I look at Peggy and she didn't say anything. So then I ask, "How are you gonna come to my room, pounding on my door like you the LAPD, but only give a little love tap to a door where your man might be?" She looks at me and says, he's probably not in there. So to keep up with these girls' delusions, I ask, so what do you want to do now? Nicely, she goes, do you want to go to the tattoo shop with me? I'm like, hell no. I start walking back to my room and she begs me to go with her as I'm walking down the mile-long hallway and as I'm entering my little icy fortress. Right as I'm getting to my room, I'm like, bye Peggy, I'll see you later. She all of a sudden gives me a little puppy dog eyes and she begs me one last time to just go with her. So as I'm about to slam the door on this delusional girl's face who really thinks I'm gonna walk miles and miles in the snow just so I can watch her get a tattoo, I look in her eyes and I ask, do you really think Jeff isn't in Helga's room? She looks at me all weird and she goes, yes, I don't believe that Jeff is in Helga's room. So that's when I realized that this girl was really stupid. Either she's blinded by love or her IQ is just really low. Either way, I started feeling bad for this young stupid lady because she was gonna be walking alone and she might leave the tattoo shop all late, so that meant that she'll be walking in Japan by herself at night. And as an airman, I started feeling like, well, I can't leave a fellow wingman behind. So yes, this dumb, delusional young lady convinced me to go with her. So as we're walking, I ask, well, what kind of tattoo you think about getting? She says that she's planning on getting an outline of a hand tattooed on her left butt cheek. Confused, I'm like, what do you mean? You mean like the turkey that kids make with their hands on Thanksgiving? She's like, yeah, but it's just the outline, so nothing's gonna be inside the hand. So basically, the tattoo is just gonna be a tracing of someone's hand. So I asked, whose hands are you gonna outline? And she said that it was Jeff's hand. So I'm thinking, this man is currently in another lady's bedroom while this young lady is about to get his handprint tattooed on her left butt cheek. All I kept thinking is, yes, it's messed up, but at the same time, it's none of my business. I remember growing up and I remember my mother telling me to never get involved in someone's relationship or never get in between a couple going through some issues. Because if I do, in the end, I'll look like the bad guy. In this case, if I tell Peggy that Jeff is probably in the room sleeping with Helga, and let's say Jeff admits it, well, she could easily forgive Jeff, and Jeff will be mad at me for snitching or betraying his trust. So together, they'll decide that I'm not trustworthy or a true friend because I got involved with their entanglement. So even today, I have both female and male friends who creep on the low, but that's none of my business. Anyway, so we get to the tattoo shop, and the same Japanese tattooist, Fumi, the one that we met during our first little walk around town, well, he starts going ahead and starts prepping for the tattoo. Fortunately, we were the only people in the tattoo shop because she needed to lay down on her stomach because she needed to pull down her pants and fully expose herself. So she was just wearing a small G-string so the tattooist could have full range of her left butt cheek. So Fumi starts bringing out the stencil because he actually printed it out because earlier in the week, Jeff came through and got his hand traced. So Fumi showed her the stencil and everybody started laughing because, I mean, the tattoo was kind of weird. I mean, a traced hand, girl's crazy. So in a thick Japanese accent, he asked her, so are you sure you want to do this? And all excited, she goes, hell yeah, let's do it. So he's like, okay. So he puts it on her and then he goes, walk to the mirror. I want you to see it. It's like he was also trying to give her hints because she really looked stupid. The tattoo looked really ugly. And he was trying to give her as many times as he could to think about what she's about to do. I mean, yes, Peggy does look like the girl from The Exorcist. But hey, if I could say something nice about her, the girl had a nice butt. But she was literally about to make her butt so hideous because of that dumb tattoo. So she looks in the mirror, she goes, yeah, let's do it. So she lays back down, Fumi turns on the needle, and as she's laying down, I'm sitting there right next to her with Fumi on the opposite side. Both Fumi and I look at each other, we lock eyes, and we both shake our heads like, man, this girl's hella stupid. So again, Fumi taps her on the shoulder as her butt is literally right in our face, and he asks one more time in a thick Japanese accent. He goes, are you sure you want to do this? She starts laughing and giggling and she goes, sure, why not? We all start laughing because, man, it's hilarious, but at the same time it's like sad and crazy. So Fumi grabs a speed stick deodorant and he starts rolling it on her butt cheek. I'm like, damn, does she stink? He goes, no, the menthol in the deodorant, it helps numb the skin, so it eases the pain for the customer. And he said since it was gonna be on her butt cheek, it really was gonna hurt. So after asking her a billion times if she really wanted to do it, he goes, okay, well, here we go. We all start laughing, but he just starts tattooing Jeff's hand on Peggy's butt cheek. It was literally one of the most dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. The handprint covered her entire butt cheek. It was from her waistline all the way down to the bottom of her butt cheek. This thing was stupid. So as soon as he starts poking her, her body's reaction was just a shake. And she was like, me and Fumi were laughing the whole time. I don't know how the hell he got the line so straight. For me, the entire experience is so hilarious. So the tattoo gets done. It was a quick one because, well, he was just tracing a hand. So we had to walk slow all those miles because she was in pain. Every time she took a step, the saran wrap would rub on her butt cheek, and I guess it hurt every time she took a step. So we got close to our buildings, we said bye to each other, and I went back to my icy fortress. So I'm back in my room, and it was a little late, so I didn't expect anybody to come visit, but all of a sudden, I hear a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole, and it was Jeff. I opened the door, he came in, but before he said anything, I said, yes, I know, it's cold in my room. So he asked me, so did you go with Peggy? And I was like, well, she couldn't find you, so she came to bother me. And he goes, so how was it? And I was like, well, it was cool, I guess. Peggy just got your handprint on her butt. So he goes, yo, I was in Helga's room. Not surprised, I was like, I know. I heard some shuffling outside Helga's door. And I also noticed that you looked through the peephole when Peggy and I were knocking at the door. Shocked, he was like, really? You heard us? What did Peggy say? I was like, well, I don't think she heard, but I mean, I heard it. So maybe she was just pretending she didn't hear anything? I don't know, it was just weird. And he dropped the bomb on me and he said, yeah man, when you guys knocked, we were actually on her bed having sex. And once again, I had to ask, I was like, bro, at least tell me you use protection. Again, he's like, bro, you know I'm allergic to latex. I mean, at this point, I was like, bro, you raw dog Helga too, man. You crazy, man. Disappointed, he goes, I know, man. Plus, it was horrible, and she tasted like cigarettes. I don't know, I thought it was disgusting, but hey, it's not my penis. Surprisingly, all worried, he goes, was Peggy mad? Judging by how she was acting, I was like, nah, man, I think she's good. She got your handprint tattooed, and she just went home. So he's all like, all right, man, thanks. And he just left. So we get to school in the morning, and everybody was just acting normal, like nothing happened. But Peggy did have to sit halfway on the chair because, well, her butt cheek was in pain. Other than that, everything was normal and the weekend just passed by like nothing happened. So our third week in Japan was just going by. We were still in class and Jeff and I decided to go eat at the food court. The food court was a little far, but I really wanted some empanadas from Taco Bell. Here's a fun fact. Just so that you know, every Air Force base in the world has a Taco Bell and a Burger King. And I was always happy with that because empanadas at Taco Bell are my favorite. So as we get there and we're about to walk in, guess who comes walking out of the food court? It was Natalie. Remember her from the beginning of the story? She was a young lady with the bright blue eyes and she was from Wyoming. I mentioned how I saw her in Texas while Jeff and her were eating in the chow hall. You know, the 19-year-old chick who divorced her 30-year-old husband? She looks like the mix of Uma Thurman on the Pulp Fiction cover and Mila Kunis. Yeah, her fine self. Well, she was coming outside of the food court with the staff sergeant who was showing her around base. And when she saw us, obviously she recognized Jeff, and Jeff went up to her and gave her a hug. He then introduced her to me. She shook my hand and she goes, hi, my name is Natalie. I'm like, nice to meet you, my name is JD. Jeff asked her what she was doing in Japan, and she said she was gonna be stationed here for a couple years, and she was gonna start FTAC next week. Jeff asked for her number and she gave it to him. She also mentioned that she lived in the same building that we did, but she lived on the 3rd floor. Obviously we knew it was the same building because she mentioned the building numbers. So like I said, same building, 3rd floor. So we said bye and we went inside the food court. As soon as the automatic doors closed behind us, he goes, bro, I'm gonna sleep with her. He said after dinner he was gonna go home and call her so he could ask her out on a date. I said, alright, bet. I mean, this girl was hot. Not like those ugly trolls that he's used to. So guy code, I'm like, alright, since he knew her first, it's only fair that he asked her out first. I said, cool, but if she ain't feeling you, I'ma ask her out. He said, alright, cool. So Jeff calls her up later that night and they agreed to go to dinner the next day. So I knew I was gonna eat dinner by myself the next day, and my fat self, I just wanted to go eat empanadas at Taco Bell again. So the next day, I make my way back to the food court for some empanadas. All of a sudden, I see Jeff and Natalie eating at Taco Bell. I stopped and I'm like, damn, you know, I don't want to seem like a hater or interrupt their date in any type of way. So I turned around and headed somewhere else to eat. Jeff's back was toward me, but Natalie and I saw each other. However, we didn't make a big deal out of it. Fortunately, the food court is real close to the front gate, so I just went off base to have some authentic Japanese food. I was thinking Jeff was probably gonna take her somewhere nice to eat. I mean, to me, this girl was way too cute to be eating at Taco Bell on the first date. I mean, I understand Peggy and Helga, but I would have at least taken pretty Natalie off base to go eat some Japanese food. So I get home after dinner and I get a knock on my door. It's Jeff. I open the door and he comes in. He goes, bro, I don't know how the hell you've been doing it, but it's so cold in here. At this point, I'm just ignoring all that. Then he drops a bomb on me. He's like, bro, you know how I just went out to dinner with Natalie, right? And I'm like, yeah, man, how was it? And he goes, remember how I told you back in Texas how she divorced her 30-year-old husband? I'm like, yeah, I remember that. He goes, dude, she told me everything about what happened in their marriage and why they broke up. I'm like, bro, you took this girl on a date and all you guys did was talk about her marriage? He's like, yes, I know it's weird, but this is crazy. So curious about the cheese, I'm like, well, what happened? So he goes, okay, Natalie said that her husband was always cheating on her, but she finally broke it off when her husband gave her genital warts. I'm like, what? This girl literally told you she had genital warts. He's like, I know, bro, what the hell, right? He goes, man, I thought I was gonna have sex with 3 girls in my first 3 weeks in Japan, but I'm not trying to risk getting genital warts. I mean, shoot, you can't get rid of that. Feeling sad for Natalie, I'm like, damn, that's pretty crazy. In my mind, it made sense because, like I said before, why would a 30-year-old man divorce a 19-year-old beautiful woman? It's either because he's cheating or abusive or she's just crazy. So the husband giving Natalie genital warts, breaking up and divorcing makes sense. Also, at the time, as a 19-year-old kid, I was freshly out of high school. I remember having a few female friends in high school who told me that they had genital warts and some of them had genital herpes. So I already knew a few young ladies who already contracted it at 16 and 17. Plus, I remember one of my friends getting HIV the summer that we graduated. So the topic wasn't new to me, but damn, I just thought it was crazy that her husband would do that to her. So the week went on and we graduated FTAC. So now it was our 4th week in Japan and there were 2.5 weeks left until Valentine's Day. You know, the week that Jeff's fiance was supposed to be showing up. So we start work and we get assigned to different sections. Even though all 3 of us were separated, Peggy and I worked in the same building. She would sometimes ask me for a ride since we worked in the same building and we lived close by. Fun fact, during my time in FTAC, I won 2 cars in 2 separate 30-man rock, paper, scissors tournaments. So fair warning, don't play rock, paper, scissors with me. Anyway, on that 4th week, I was walking to my room in that mile-long hallway, and from a distance, I see Jeff coming out of his room. As he was getting closer, I noticed a familiar shirt he had on. And yes, as he got closer, I saw what this man was wearing. This man was wearing the white t-shirt with the picture of him and his fiancée on it. You know, the t-shirt he was wearing when we first landed in Tokyo? Yes, that same t-shirt. So he daps me up and he had the biggest smile on his face. So I asked, yo, Peggy is cool with you wearing that shirt? I mean, cause to me at this point, since she was basically already living with him, got his handprint tattooed on her butt cheek, I would assume that she wouldn't be cool with that. So he goes, you already know, man, you know I got it like that. So I'm like, all right, play on, player. I mean, shoot, I'm not trying to hate if he really has it like that. He asked me to go to dinner with him and I was like, all right, let's go. So we went, and since he was wearing the t-shirt, I asked about his fiancée and he said that she was still coming to Japan and they're planning on keeping the same date for her to arrive on Valentine's Day. So the next day I go to work and my master sergeant tells me that I'm going to be working 12-hour shifts. However, I'm going to be working at a different location somewhere on base. So my master sergeant said that I'll be starting those hours February 1st and that I had the night shift. She said it was just gonna be me, another airman, and 2 sergeants. So it's February 1st and I get to this new building at noon. Obviously, I'm working from noon to midnight. And guess what airman shows up to work a 12-hour shift with me? Good old Peggy. So it's the 1st week of February and I'm working 12-hour shifts with Peggy. Most of the time, it was just me and Peggy by ourselves after the sergeants told us what to do. Obviously, working 12-hour shifts with somebody, there's going to be some conversation. I didn't mind talking to her because she was the type to talk and work. So as long as she worked, I really didn't mind if she blabbered all night long. So during the first long shift, she tells me that she feels so lucky that she met Jeff. Me, in my head, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, crazy girl. Then she drops a bomb on me. She tells me that she fell in love with Jeff and that she really wants to marry him. Bruh, this girl is crazy. So to not mess up my homie's game, however, still trying to protect this delusional girl, I ask, how do you know he's the one? She gives me the stupidest answer. She goes, well, I just know. This girl's an idiot. So just to dig a little more, without making it too obvious, I asked, so what's up with that shirt that he was wearing last week with the picture of his fiancée on it? Stunned, she goes, oh my God, it's so crazy what happened to his fiancée, right? Confused, I'm like, what happened to her? She's all like, oh my God, he didn't tell you? I'm like, what happened to his fiancée? She goes, well, you know how she died, right? I'm like, what? What do you mean? I didn't hear that she died. Surprised, she goes, oh, he didn't tell you? And I was like, no, what happened? I mean, for real, this was news to me. I'm really thinking that his fiancée just died. So I'm over here like, tell me what happened. Then she goes, well, while we were in tech school back in Texas, she died in a horrible car accident. He wears that lovely t-shirt in memory of her. I'm like, who told you this? She goes, Jeff told me. It's so sad, right? I'm like, yeah, it's so sad. Jeff is nuts. Me thinking that he had it like that. All he was doing was just lying to Peggy so she could be his little fun dumpster until his fiance arrives on Valentine's Day. So at this point, I don't even know what to do. This man is straight lying on her, but he's my homie, so I'm not trying to ruin his crazy, messed up game. Also, I'm just trying to give her hints to kind of give her a different idea, just to try to change the way she feels. I don't know. I mean, what would you do with all this information? So just to dig in and I guess impose a little more, obviously without snitching on my friend, I asked Peggy, so would your parents approve of you marrying Jeff? Then she says, well, I don't think they'll give me good advice since my dad was the best man at my mother's first wedding. Plus, my parents are divorced now. I'm like, wait, in my head, I'm like, wait, your dad was the best man at your mama's first wedding? Yo, that's some Jerry Springer stuff for you. So that kind of gave me a little glimpse in her life to help me verify that, well, this young lady had a messed up mentality. So I'm starting to understand that this girl really is a little crazy. So like I said, wrong or right, I still wasn't trying to hate on my homie. So all I said was, well, I'm happy for you guys. So the shift was over and I was just so happy to get away from this crazy girl. Literally, as soon as I was walking out the building at midnight, a guy from the next shift stops me at the door. He goes, yo, JD, Natalie called me earlier. She asked me to tell you if you could swing by her room after you get off of work. In my head, I'm thinking, Natalie? Genital Warts Natalie? I asked the guy, for what? He's like, I don't know. But hey, maybe she could keep you warm at night so you don't have to sleep in your icebox. So as you can see, after 5 weeks of living in Japan, everyone already knows, and now it's an ongoing joke, that I live in a frozen fortress of solitude. So I asked him if he knew where she lived. So he said, yeah, in your building on the 3rd floor by the stairway. So he turns around and he walks away and I started walking toward my car. As I was walking, I started thinking, bro, the only reason a young, beautiful lady would invite you to her room at midnight is because she's looking for some snap and tickle. But at the same time, maybe I'm getting a little too ahead of myself. I mean, I only met this girl once. She probably just wants me to help her move furniture or something. So during my drive home, I started thinking about my intentions. Just in case she starts thinking about knocking some boots, I was going to purposely show up to her room in my dirty work clothes. Obviously, I'll be giving a different vibe than someone showing up freshly showered, clean shaved, looking clean with some cologne on, with a pack of condoms with some wine. And obviously, I'm not trying to do anything because I don't want to gamble on getting bumps on my baloney pony. So I get to my building and I walk up the stairs to the 3rd floor. I see her name tag on the room and I take a deep breath, hoping she doesn't want to slap and pickle. So I knock. And this beautiful young lady answers the door in a pink silk nightie. Her makeup and her hair is done. She gives me a hug and her perfume just tries to hypnotize me. Without saying a word, she grabs my hand and she leads me inside a room.